Welcome back to episode 16 here at Tech Headlines Today. Go ahead and subscribe or follow, because that way you won't miss an episode. While you're at it, why not go ahead and share this episode to Facebook or Twitter? We would greatly appreciate it. Let's get into it. Google to restrict cross-app tracking of users on Android. Google is going to start blocking cross-app tracking on Android in a multi-year effort to replace the existing online advertising system for its mobile OS with a privacy-preserving alternative. The company mentioned the news on Wednesday as part of an announcement about new privacy-focused restrictions that will stop Android apps from profiling users' internet activities. Specifically, these solutions will limit sharing of user data with third parties and operate without cross-app identifiers, including the advertising ID. We're also exploring technologies that reduce the potential for covert data collection, Google said. This includes stopping advertisers from using other forms of data to fingerprint users. Apple's iOS app tracking transparency system requires developers to ask for permission before tracking users across web and apps. To avoid tracking, you can manually reset or opt out of the Google Advertising ID, but third-party apps may still track you. Google is working on a new system for Android that promises to prevent user tracking without disrupting the online advertising industry. Twitter officially launches labels to identify the, quote, good bots. Twitter last fall introduced a new label that would allow what it calls the good bots on its service to identify themselves. While the word bot can often have a negative connotation, Twitter noted that there were useful bots too, which were automatically tweeting out useful information like COVID-19 updates, earthquake alerts, bills being introduced in Congress, and more. These good bot labels, which had been in testing with a small group, are now publicly available to all automated account holders. Twitter accounts that list themselves as bots will display a robot icon and the account's operator in the Twitter profile. When they tweet, this information will be visible in users' timelines. Many people automate their Twitter accounts in other ways, like using THT integrations. Twitter is less concerned about these kind of automated tweets. Help Nintendo test Switch Sports this weekend. Nintendo is set to launch Switch Sports on April 29th. But ahead of the game's release, an online test is being carried out this week from February 18th through the 20th. There's a few boxes that need ticking to be eligible to take part. First of all, you'll need to have an active Switch Online subscription, trial memberships work too, and secondly, a Switch console. Original Switch or OLED model is required. Unfortunately, the Switch Lite isn't supported for the test. The online test is split across 3 days and set periods of time. The available options include Friday 2/18, from 7 p.m. to 7:45, Saturday the 19th, 3 a.m. to 3:45, 11 a.m. to 11:45, 7 p.m. to 7:45, and Sunday the 20th from 3 a.m. to 3:45. All times are Pacific Standard Time. Those early tests on Saturday and Sunday are likely to be the easiest to join if you can manage to wake up in time. The Switch Sports online playtest requires redeeming a 16-digit code from Nintendo's website. Nintendo says the online test isn't representative of the final game. Check out the full article in our show links in order to register to play. Grand Prix CFO sentenced for identity theft. The former chief financial officer of the Boston Grand Prix has been sentenced to prison for his part in multiple wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and money laundering schemes. John F. Casey of Ipswich, Massachusetts, was appointed as Boston Grand Prix CFO in January 2015. The organization made payments totaling approximately $308,000 in 2015 and $601,000 in 2016 to or on behalf of Casey, which he failed to include in the gross income he claimed on his personal tax returns for those years. Casey also made false statements to financing companies to secure $743,000 in funding to purchase equipment for an ice rink in Peabody, which he owned between October 2013 and June 1, 2016. The money was secured by Casey when he no longer owned the rink. Casey admitted fraudulently obtaining pandemic relief funding grants totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars by submitting at least 14 fraudulent loan applications to the Small Business Administration. On Tuesday, 58-year-old Casey was sentenced to 4 years in prison and 3 years of supervised release. He was also ordered to pay almost $2 million in restitution and was ordered to forfeit $1.5 million. Facebook agrees to pay $90 million to settle user tracking lawsuit. Meta has agreed to pay $90 million to settle a 10-year data privacy case alleging Facebook used proprietary plugins to track users' internet browsing even after users logged off. Facebook and Meta agreed on a settlement in a case involving the illegal copying and monetization of personal data, according to law firm DeCello Levitt Gutzler. Facebook appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, which declined to review the case and allowed the lower court decision to stand. Bringing accounting into the 21st century. Trulion, the leading financial automation platform, closed $15 million in Series A funding. The finance community is plagued with legacy processes, such as spreadsheets and PDFs, which are out of date and extremely inefficient. Plus, the industry is constantly changing, and new accounting standards are constantly being introduced. Trulion is an AI platform that brings accounting legacy processes into the 21st century. The platform automates financial images and breaks down data silos, allowing companies to collaborate in real time with their auditors. They provide unparalleled levels of data accurately and efficiently, and automate workflows for accounting teams to collaborate in real time with their auditors. Whether you're an accounting firm, auditor, or CFO, you'll see how beneficial modernizing to a digital approach for managing your financial data can be. With the Series A capital, Trulion plans to accelerate product development and expand their teams to support multinational clients. Don't fall for this money transfer video chat scam. The FBI warns companies of fraudsters hijacking video meeting accounts to swindle companies out of cash. The fraud is more commonly known as business email compromise, BEC for short, and involves tricking a company's internal staff into wiring huge amounts of cash to a bank account. BEC-related attacks and email spoofing scams have plagued the corporate world for years. However, video conferencing has given cybercriminals a new avenue to trick employees into wiring company funds. The FBI said the fraudsters break into the email accounts of company executives and request employees to attend virtual meetings as they impersonate company executives. Criminals will insert a still picture of a CEO with no audio and instruct employees to transfer funds by chat. Fraudsters also hijack CEOs' emails and demand wire transfers, then claim they're busy with a virtual meeting and can't do it themselves. The FBI did not name the affected virtual meeting platforms, but Zoom and Microsoft Teams have attracted millions of new users. AI acquires the power to manipulate fusion, but wait, it's actually good news. A group of researchers at Google's DeepMind and EPFL have taught AI to magnetically wrangle a high-powered stream of plasma used for fusion research. Fusion research is conducted in many ways, but all involve plasmas formed at incredibly high temperatures. A tokamak allows for close observation of the fusion activity happening within. This is not a fusion reactor, but a research tool for testing and observing how volatile but promising processes can be controlled. Researchers at the Swiss Plasma Center can make a plasma ring wider, thinner, and more dense or diffuse by controlling the magnetic parameters. To produce plasma power, you need to know the theoretical settings to produce the plasma, but it takes weeks or months to create it manually. AI could figure this out in a fraction of the time. 3 tips on how to create a smart lab in 2022. If there was a time when the world got to see just how much scientific research can change odds in our favor, it was during the COVID-19 pandemic. True, it's not over yet, but due to thorough research and dedicated scientists, we now have several vaccines and even some promising treatments to help us get to the other side. Yet none of this would have been possible without well-equipped laboratories that allowed scientists to do their work and provided them with the right tools. While each laboratory is unique, there are a couple of issues that tend to cause problems and hinder the flow of work. Human error is a huge factor of concern because it can cause all sorts of mishaps and even influence results. It may seem hard to believe, but even the most high-tech labs can be lacking in automation, at the moment at least. Luckily, due to the development of IoT devices, it will be easier to have pipettes working with centrifuges without needing the intervention of a lab technician. In today's day and age, with big data being a thing, it's easy to get lost in the mountain of data. What's worse, entire research projects can fail because the data was not properly cleaned or sorted. Overall, the development of proper smart laboratories is predicted to reduce time spent on a project and bring down costs. Of course, there's the initial investment, which can be quite steep, but the return on investment is definitely worth it. Flying cars take off. How air taxis are about to revolutionize how we travel. It's hard to decide whether flying taxis are a science fiction staple or a reality. After years of wishful thinking, it's happening. Several companies are currently preparing eVTOL or electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, that could revolutionize the way we get around big cities. Air taxis promise to relieve urban transport issues and get passengers to their destinations in record time. Many developers believe their vehicles will be safety certified and cleared for takeoff by 2025, if not sooner, with the VA-X4 from Vertical having the highest number of conditional pre-orders. The VA-X4 will carry 4 passengers, the pilot, and 2 pairs of people facing each other. Air taxis are quite noisy and expensive, but are safe because they are powered by electricity and each rotor is powered by a separate motor. Los Angeles is preparing for the advent of these electric VTOLs. The city sprawl caused traffic jams, but advanced air mobility could ease the problems on the ground. Los Angeles, Osaka, and Singapore are among the cities preparing for flying taxis, and a new landing site for air taxis is being built in Paris for the 2024 Olympics. In order for air taxis to become a reality, regulators need to develop new licensing and credential standards. Experts agree that VTOLs could be used for search and rescue, organ transplant, delivery, and tourism in the coming decades. Thanks for joining us again for another episode. Help us out by sharing the podcast on social media, and we'll see you tomorrow.